Um, any person coming out of prison is eligible to vote as long as he or she is registered. But they must make sure that their registration is up to date be- when they come out of the prison. I hear that some people, there's a packet for people coming out of incarceration with a registration form in it. And as long as we get the registration form, they will be able to vote just like everyone else. So people coming out of incarceration can vote. The only time you can't vote is if you are convicted, okay, and you are serving time.
So if someone is waiting for trial, if they
You you can they
they
can vote if they're waiting and they haven't been convicted. They can apply for a vote by mail application, and the clerk, Mary, am I correct? Can if they request it, will send the ballot to wherever it was requested. Am I right,
We,
Steve?
we've actually sent
Yeah.
them uh, to jails for, I mean, somebody that's not been convicted, but they're being held. They have the right to vote. And of course, obviously, they're not going to get out to vote. So we've had the sheriff's office deliver a ballot.
do you know if other states have the same practice?
Other states are different.
I think, yeah.
But in New Jersey, and it hasn't always been like that in New Jersey. If you were on probation, you couldn't vote in New Jersey. But now it doesn't matter whether you're on probation or not. Everyone can vote as long as you're not incarcerated. So each state is different.
So I recommend to people that have asked me about that question just to make sure they check their registration when they get out to make sure that they are no longer in there because they might still be in there. Not every system's perfect. If they were incarcerated, they get out of prison, now they're ready to vote, and they find that their voter registration is still in there, they're still registered to vote. Is that okay?
Yes, if it's everything is current and if they haven't moved, I mean, if you were in this, if you came home to the same address where you voted, then you could be fine. But it's up to the person who was incarcerated to make sure that their information is current.
If someone is experiencing homelessness, how does that work for voting? If they want to register to vote and they don't have a permanent home.
So that is also an option, right on the voter registration form. There's information right on there that says if you're homeless, you're basically going to put, where do you spend your most time? Are you on this corner? Do you have a post office box? We need to be able to what we call geocode you so that you are eligible to vote the ballot, that you are wherever you are. So if you are on the corner of Smith and Main, and that's where you spend your time, we will drop a pin there, and that is where that's where your voting district will be. And the problem that we have again is how do we contact that voter?
Right.
If we send a ballot, it comes back, it's undeliverable. So we try to have conversations with voters to let them know that, these are when elections happen. We try to work with social services. A lot of times, they will be advocates for them. So we are able to sometimes send mail to a county social service office on their behalf because they have to check in, whatever it is. But absolutely, just because you are homeless doesn't mean that you've lost your right to vote.
The other thing that we have protection for is victims of domestic violence. They also have the right to register to vote. In Hunterdon, we have a few that they come into my office and they get a vote by mail. They vote it because they don't want an address. And if anybody but me looked them up, and I'm sure at Beth's office, if anybody but Beth looked them up, the voter doesn't exist. So, we know who those voters are, and we've worked with them personally to make sure they vote, but obviously they don't want mail, and they don't want their name going out on a check-in report or a vote by mail report or anything that connects them with an address. So there is And the same way, well, Daniel's law protects them from having their name and address associated, correct, Beth?
Correct. So just
Daniel's
there,
law-
yeah,
Yeah, Daniel's law is, of course, law enforcement, prosecutors, people of a protected class from Judge Salas.
Right,
and,
but if
and,
we,
yeah.
when
and
we
most-
generate, say, the check-in report, I go through and scrub all the addresses from that.
Yeah, we scrub them, so,
No.
and that's for, they're protected for a reason.
So they would go to the clerk in person within that 45 days, before the election, and vote in a private space and leave their ballot right there so that they're not out in public. And that's the unfortunate part, because once we make them confidential and protected, their information doesn't show up anywhere.
That's helpful, but then can they change that status down the road if that?
Absolutely, yes. And some protective orders that we get expire. So we always try to reach out to that person. I actually put ours on a calendar if it pops up, and then we try to call the voter and say, has your protective order been extended? Is it over now? And then we can, turn them back into an everyday, just like everyone else. So.